Welcome back to Building People, Companies, and Careers. I'm your host, Amy Pack. At AccruePartners, we partner with organizations during times of growth, change, leadership transition, and transformation here, Charlotte, the Carolinas, and beyond. In honor of International Women's History Month, today's conversation features women leaders who are shaping organizations, driving impact, redefining what leadership looks like. We'll explore their journeys, lessons learned, and impact they're making today. So, Caitlin, thank you so much for joining me today for a quick conversation as we focus on International Women's History Month.
Absolutely.
Look forward to the conversation and hearing a little bit about your journey as a female leader, the impact, and some of the lessons that you've learned. But I'd like to start out a little bit with the question, tell me about yourself.
Absolutely. So, a little bit of my history. Katelyn Lattimore, currently Senior Director of Performance Marketing at Burn Boot Camp. Previous to my role at Burn, my pedigree, 10 years in agency work, so really driving strategy across go-to-market campaigns, across a book of work from HBO, Adidas, Pepsi, NBA, really household brands, and then spent about 10 years at Geldwin. At Geldwin, it was really preparing for IPO readiness. I started off there building the agency inside model, so really scaling growth
Hmm.
for market awareness leading up into the IPO following. And following that stint within Geldwin, really moving into the transformation office,
Okay.
understanding the business needs, the problems we needed to solve, the lack of speed to market.
Hmm.
And I had that historical knowledge. So I moved over to IT and really driving that center of transformation at Geldwin. And then now I've been at Burn Boot Camp for a little over a year. And really, it's been every month has been a year of transformation in driving, understanding the right MarTech stack that we need to win the game, really shifting to strategy of what good looks like. And now we're at the piece of the puzzle is getting the right people in, the right resources to align AI mobilization and operationalizing it across the
Yeah.
enterprise.
Well, that's quite a journey, I would say.
Yes,
I look forward to hearing more about it. But
absolutely.
going from marketing to IT transformation and
Hmm.
now to a franchised platform,
Hmm.
lots of exciting things to be had there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's start out with when you look at your career today, what moment or decisions most shape the leader you are now?
So I think it's really, there's been a few poignant moments in my career where my scope exceeded my title. And I think when you're young in your career and anytime you're looking for that moment of validation. And
Mm-hmm.
there was a moment with our COO who shared she was operating in the role that she was didn't hold yet, right? And that unlocked something for me that I didn't need to wait for someone to call my name.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need to wait for when it was my time. I was going to rise up and operate in that space. And
Mm-hmm.
I had the freedom and validation to do so. And I stopped presenting right suggestions. I moved into room not with suggestions, but with strategies, right? Not with problems, but with solutions. And it's how I shifted that posture and that I knew I was already operating, driving revenue, driving growth through a lens of enterprise that was outside of my scope. And I was able to boldly enter rooms and just own the seat that I wanted tomorrow, today.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and I think that's a great transition to the next question is when was the point that you had to stop waiting for permission to fully own the seat at the table? Is there any more that you would want to share with that? Because it sounds like you saw someone else experience that and you really just owned it and said, I'm going after it.
Yeah, and I think it's really, you can call yourself forward, right? And your actions, how you're operating, the results you're driving, you can have that ability to call yourself forward. And that's something I work with even my young leaders, my teams, is
Mm-hmm.
everyone inherently is a leader, regardless if you have a direct reporter or not, right? There are moments where you can create clarity, you can drive, you can raise the bar, you can raise
Mm-hmm.
the standards, and operating in that space that we can all lead, and you don't have to have the title to do so. And when you have that authority, right, and that conviction, the barriers remove themselves, right? You
Right.
start to be seen with the impact you're delivering versus the work that you're executing
Yeah,
on.
I say it a lot of times at Accrue Partners. It doesn't matter how long you've been here or what your title is. It's impact and influence, and what
Mhm.
you do, you can lead.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So I
Absolutely.
love that. How do you think your responsibilities as a leader shows up when it comes to building people over results? We all know results matter, but you also have to build people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in performance, right? So results are paramount,
Right.
but we don't get the results without the people.
Mm-hmm.
And so building teams to work autonomously, right? And to empower them to lead and to have their designated areas of ownership, and that it all comes back to the people. It all comes back to them, and really instilling in them that point that I shared, right? We're all leaders, whether we have direct reports or not, and empowering them to be able to move autonomously within the company and own the results.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we breathe, right? Within my teams, is it's profound when when I see a direct report, right, that they're owning an initiative. They have the capacity to lead. They have that it factor. I make it a point to call that out,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes early on in our career, we're stuck in the cycle of proving ourselves, right? Have I proved myself? Am I doing enough? Am I doing,
Right.
like, how do I check that box to go up that next rung? And I always make it a point to call out when they are acting beyond their scope, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think sometimes you have to hear it. You have to hear those words. It's like when someone speaks truth over you, a light goes off.
Yeah.
And it's how then I use those conversations and those moments, that then they're rising and they're leaning in and they're seeing themselves really in lights that they may not have even been
Yeah,
self-aware.
it's the words of affirmation
Mhm.
that they did
Mhm.
it and they can
Mhm.
do it, and you
Absolutely.
give them that, and then they will do it again.
100%. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, great. So, what belief about leadership did you have early on in your career that you had to unlearn? We all build these muscles, and at some point, you have to undo that to advance forward.
Absolutely. I think cornerstone, and again, it's the lessons learned that you continue to find room with junior associates to give them those lessons, earlier on than you discovered them in your career.
Right.
Really, I was tied to volume equals value, right? So all of the reports, all of the deadlines, more campaigns, more capacity. And really that was creating noise. I was
Mm-hmm.
creating output, right? There was a volume of what I was doing, but the impact lacked. And so what I learned was, it wasn't a question of can you do it? Should we be doing this? And being leaning into the motions of managing up,
Mm-hmm.
understanding what we were being asked, but actually saying yes, but if we do it this way, right, it's 10x revenue, right? Starting to reframe the requests on the table
Right.
from a lens of ROI, from a lens of impact, from a
Mm-hmm.
lens of resources. And that really changed things for me early on, is I was no longer just an order taker, right? We weren't in tactical execution. Was the work we were doing supported across the enterprise, and really elevating up to management, where we should be investing our time, where we
Mm-hmm.
should be investing our money, and reshaping what good looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sounds like that one moment in your career was very defining for
And then
you.
it just became table stakes, right?
Yeah.
It's how I would show up, right?
Right.
It's really, this is what we're being asked to do, but have we all collectively thought about it this way?
Mm-hmm.
And making sure we were all tied back to ROI initiatives, right?
Right.
What is going to be the biggest impact? And that helped remove a lot of noise, especially in my time at Geldwin, right? There was a lot of leadership turnover.
Right.
So there was initiatives that had been worked on for months, years, that does that really make sense to do right now with
Mm-hmm.
now the shift in strategy? And so being free to have those direct conversations, and making sure we were focused on the right things that were going to move
Yeah, and
the
being
needle.
authentic and
Hmm.
knowing that it's okay,
Absolutely.
especially in the moments of change.
Lots of change.
Yeah. So, as you look ahead, what does meaningful success look like for you now beyond title and achievement?
For me, it's really pouring back into teams, right? Um, it's the posture in which you move, I think younger in your career, you know, you're chasing a title, you're chasing acknowledgement. And what I learned is, yes, there's the title, but that's how do you lead with that title? How
Mm-hmm.
are you driving an impact?
Mm-hmm.
How are you transforming your teams? And so it's how am I able to, back to what I said, right? Of speaking kind of that truth over them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't see themselves as this capable, like that they have this capability set or they have this strength. And I
Right.
think as leaders, when you can get the best out of your team, especially in areas they may be blind that they
Mm-hmm.
actually have a strength in, it's how to motivate and empower them. And the legacy is, right, if I can hold the line and they rise faster than I did in my career,
Right.
right? I'm the shoulders that they're standing on
Mm-hmm.
and giving them the advice and what I know to help empower and move them along.
Right, right. Well, those were some great lessons to hear about your journey in leadership and the impact and what you've learned along the way. Thought we would move on to rapid fire
Okay.
since this would be a quick
Yes.
conversation. What's one piece of advice you wish someone had given you 10 years ago?
Um, Probably back to that volume over value.
Yeah.
I would also say for leaders looking for a career shift or maybe that they feel like they're ready for a promotion but it hasn't come down yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most profound lesson for that woman in that stage of her career is you're at the table, so you need to own it, right? You were called to the table in that capacity, and owning that seat at the table and leaning forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can open that door in how you operate. You don't need someone to come down and say, "You, it's time now," right? It's how we operate and
Mm-hmm.
that posture change.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then next, what's one bold move that changed your career trajectory?
Really, right when I moved from the constructs of my job and really shifting to enterprise level, right? I saw the bigger picture, what was still left on the table,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to connect, right, missing Martech infrastructure to what the art of the possible, what new strategy could do, layer it onto that
Mm-hmm.
Martech, and then getting the right resources in the room, moving into a space where it wasn't just my swim lane, but how do we actually build this scalable growth system for the enterprise and leading with conviction.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, I appreciate you taking some time out today
Absolutely.
to join me at Accrue Partners and look forward to continuing the conversation later.
Thank you.